So we're going to start with a pretty basic example of finding the volume of a sphere. So volume of sphere, our volume formula is 4/3 pi r cubed. We just have to figure out what the radius is. So we look at our sphere, we can see the radius is given to us. So our radius is 6. And now we just plug into the formula. So volume equals 4/3 times pi times your radius of 6 cubed. So remember, 6 cubed means 6 times 6 times 6. And 6 to the third power is 216. Alright, so remember, we're leaving pi in our answers, and so we just have to figure out how to multiply 4/3 times a 216. So over here, if we kind of look at what that math is, 4/3, I'm going to do 216 over 1, just so I'm dealing with two fractions. If you can do any reducing, if you'd like to do the cross reducing, you could reduce right here. Oops. The 26 and the 3, or sorry, the 216 and the 3, or you could multiply straight across and then reduce that way. So kind of whatever you prefer. I'm going to see if 3 fits into 216. I'm pretty sure it's going to fit nice and evenly. So if I divide 3 by 3, I get 1. If I divide 216 by 3, I get 72. And now I just have to multiply 4 times 72. That gives me 288. So my volume is equal to 4/3 times 216 is 288. We just found that off to the side. And then our pi stays. And then we have our label. We can see this is in inches, so inches cubed. So we're going to find the volume of this sphere. So I always start by writing out the formula so I know here's what we're going to use. Oops, doesn't start with pi. It starts with 4/3 pi r cubed. And then I look at that and say, okay, I'm going to need to know the radius. So this problem has just a little bit of trickery involved. The 8 centimeters is for the entire diameter, so that's not the radius. So just be careful about how things are labeled. You've seen me have a little bit of an issue with that in a video from a few lessons ago. If the diameter is 8, that means that our radius is 4. So remember, the radius goes from the center out to the edge. Alright, so not too tricky. We just had to pay attention to it. So we're going to do 4/3 times pi times our radius cubed. Alright, 4 times 4 times 4 is 64. And now we're going to multiply the 4/3 times the 64. So we did that on the last problem, 4/3 times 64 over 1. You can see if 3 fits into 64. And because it does not, if you try, 3 does not fit into 64, so I can't do any reducing there. So that means we're left with multiplying straight across. 4 times 64 is 256. 3 times 1 is 3. And then because we could not reduce the 64 and the 3, I already know that this cannot be reduced. Alright, so now we're going to put that into our formula. So our volume is equal to 4/3 times 64 was 256 over 3 pi. And then we don't want to forget our label. It is centimeters cubed. So you may end up with a fraction in your answer, and that's okay. That just means that you couldn't reduce the numbers, but we'll still have the fraction in our answer.